The Guardians lose today, but both of our hosts, we were talking in third person, are in a surprisingly happy point of view. We're feeling good in spite of the loss. You will find out why on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I am one of your two hosts. Before we tell you about who we are, though, I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, especially if you're feeling a bit down. Today's the perfect day to listen. I know the loss stunk. My co-host was at the game. It was not fun to watch in person or where I am from a distance, but we'll get into why you should still be upbeat for this Guardians team. For those who don't know me, I am Jeff Ellis, as it says on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Before this, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout and 24/7. Before that, I wrote for pretty much every Cleveland sports blog that has ever existed. Justin, tell them who you are.
Yes, I am Justin Latta, currently with Guardians Baseball Insider, editor-in-chief, and I cover prospects mostly, but do a lot of this stuff as well. And I have, like Jeff, have been around the block to every possible Cleveland sports blog as well, focusing on baseball and freelancing for the Willoughby News Herald. All good stuff. At least I thought it was. Not to toot my own horn.
No, you toot away. Today's show, we are going to talk about, we did the bonus show on Friday night. So we have talked about game 1 and game 2, but we're going to talk about the win on game 3. We're going to talk about the loss in game 4. And then we're going to segment 3. We're going to save a little more time than normal. And we're going to get into game 5 and why you should be feeling good about a game 5. Why we are not as concerned as I think many other people are going to be. So that is kind of our tease for this. You want to stick around to hear why we're both fans of the Guardians' chances as this team continues to push into the postseason. But let's start off with the win. An unlikely win, can we say that, on Friday? I mean, just unlikely in the way that they came from behind. You're in a situation where Tristan McKenzie has one of his worst starts recently. Listen, he's always home run prone. That stuff's going to happen. Henches gives up the first run of any reliever in the postseason. Eli Morgan comes in and gets the win. It was just a crazy game. How about the fact that we still haven't seen Louis Licky? Like, what's going on with that through all these games? So many, and then Oscar Gonzalez, of course, caps it and ties Big Papi for most walk-off wins in a postseason. Did I see that somewhere?
Yeah, I don't know if it's one postseason or in general, but it's ridiculous, unbelievable. There's no way to describe that guy at this point. He had a lot of good at bats too, I thought, in game 4, which we'll get into. But that, I don't know. I kept asking people. I said, what was the more improbable win this season? I looked at 3 games. I said the Josh Naylor game against the White Sox, where he hit the grand slam to tie it, and then the 3-run homer to win it, basically. Then there was the days where Naylor had the walk-off against the Twins, and the next day Jimenez did it again. And then there was last night, game 3, or 2 nights ago, when people are probably listening to this. I don't know which one of those is more improbable, but those are probably the top 3 ones this year, I would say. And playoff one means the most.
Yeah, it was, it's a game that kind of, listen, if they don't win, that is the Oswald Cabrera game. That dude had himself a night for the ages, but it gets forgotten because Oscar Gonzalez, has the big hit. They put together timely hitting. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, that was manufactured. It started with straw right, and they didn't even pinch hit for Maile because
that was the only bad decision that whole night.
It's like, what's the point of Naylor? Honestly, like, if you don't trust him enough, even in that situation, to go and pinch hit when you're down 2 in the 9th, then there's really no point in having him on the roster. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, I mean, you go out there to leverage. It's a waste of a roster spot if you're not going to use them. Like, you're just playing with 25 guys. But the Yankees, I think, are doing the same thing. You talked about Louis Licky and Miguel Castro on that roster. Those guys aren't going to pitch, obviously, so they're playing with 24 guys. I don't know. It's very bizarre, but yeah, if you're not going to use, I said tonight in game 4 too, in the 9th inning, they had a chance to have Luke Maile up, and I'm like, if this is not the spot for someone to pinch hit for Luke Maile and you have to go to Bo Naylor if it goes to extras, then there was never a point in having him on the roster. It was a waste of a spot. But to be honest, if we don't really have time for it today, but who do you want on this roster that's not Bo Naylor? Who else is there? Freeman?
It's a valid point. I mean, it is. It's kind
Nolan
of
Jones, Tyler Freeman. That's it.
I kind of like Nolan Jones just for power, but you wish that he had gotten some at bats with the big league team after he got sent down. So I mean, there's not a great choice to go with, but again, at the end of the day, they lead off with the catcher who gets the out, and then they just pile on. And before that, I think we got to take some time. And Gabriel, I heard throughout the season from multiple people about how hard first base is defensively and how Owen Miller isn't that bad. Some Owen Miller apologists, and that you can't just throw someone into that position. Now, Gabriel Arias has played a few games there, but he hasn't played a ton. They threw him in there in the postseason, and what a debut.
Yeah, offensively and defensively. In Game 4, he didn't really stick out at all in Game 3 defensively. Like, it was pretty routine. But Game 4, he had a couple of huge moments defensively, which we'll get into. Yeah, that was a great move, and his at-bats have been fantastic. I think, if the Guardians win Game 5 and you're facing Houston, I would stick with it. I would say keep DHing Josh Naylor because the leg, and it also gives you some more flexibility as well. But good call.
He's a right-handed bat, so he gives you what Miller would give, but
better at
bats and better defense, and probably runs about the same. Miller's actually a pretty good runner. But yeah, I thought, and then Brennan, for as much as, I've talked about him looking lost, big, huge hit. Absolutely. That right after, after the double that he comes up and gets the third run, the Yankees seem to always get a run after Cleveland gets one back. We've seen that this whole series, but at the end of the day, the people at the top did their job. Quan ended up with 3 hits. Jose ended up with 3 hits. Naylor, that wasn't the best at bat though for him, right? Didn't he get out in the 9th in this game? And then he
struck out. Yeah,
he struck out. It was rather ugly at bat, as I recall. And then Oscar Gonzalez, again, when the chips are down, he just always seems to come up big.
And a 2-strike count nonetheless. I looked up the numbers. I wanted to see, because I think Francona talks a lot about Gonzalez's 2-strike approach, and his numbers on 2-strike counts aren't special. Like, he's got like a 500 or 400 OPS in that count, and he's not hitting great. Like, average isn't great either. But sometimes he makes a count, and he did that night. That whole inning was just a carbon copy of Game 2. Like, instead of Jose Ramirez blooping and getting on second or third, it was Miles Straw, and then everybody else did the same thing. Basically, the Yankees lost the same way 2 nights in a row. So, and then the only thing you could really complain about is that they kind of let Luis Severino off the hook. They had great at bats. Yeah. He was not that great. They could have been up big a lot earlier, I think. So,
yeah, I mean, the fact
they won anyway.
They won in the end, but yeah, I definitely thought, oh man, this guy isn't going to get out, because that's the thing. Like, the bonus if he doesn't get out of 4 innings is then I think one of the underrated storylines the last 2 games is like they didn't kill the Yankees bullpen enough. They had an opportunity to really kill that bullpen to set them up even better in Game 5. And Severino goes 5 2/3. And Gerrit Cole, does he go 7 tonight? Right?
Yeah.
I don't have the
box. He went 7,
yeah. Yeah, he went 7. So they didn't get into the bullpen as much as I would have liked. They definitely let these guys off the hook a little. I mean, those first 2 innings, it looked like big things were going to happen, and then they ended up with 1 run in each of those innings. And the funny thing is, you can go back Game 2. I said early on, it was like the setup for heartbreak, and then they came back to win. Game 3 was arguably the same thing. It was the setup, like, you felt really good about that, and then they had to still come back. But it was just such a strong performance. Any final thoughts on, a really fun walk-off win for Cleveland?
No, that was fantastic. I mean, that proves to you right there what they've been doing all season long. You can't count them out. As long as the game is close, they have a chance. And the Yankees bullpen did exactly what we thought they would do. They struggled, and the only thing you can really say is Aaron Boone's decision-making and some of the roster decisions they've made this postseason have been very strange. I can see why Yankees fans are frustrated with him right now. I think Tito pushed all the right buttons in Game 3, by the way. I think the Gabriel Arias thing, the bullpen, everything. Only thing I complain about in that game is the Luke Maile not pinch hitting in the last inning. That's the only thing. I think it was a great game from Francona and not so good for Boone.
Yeah, it was a fun one, as long as you were a Guardians fan, or maybe if you're just a Harrison Bader only fan. But yeah, we'll talk about that more in the next one. Didn't expect him to turn to Babe Ruth, but what you can count on, what you can have some faith in, is Simply Safe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn that trust of that many people without doing something right. It's Simply Safe. Your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I've heard from others who use Simply Safe in their own home, and they protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. Ooh. Here's why I love Simply Safe. They have 24-hour professional monitoring. Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not at home or can't be reached. They blanket your home protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. HD security cameras for inside and out. Smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats. Their monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just minutes at simplysafe.com/lockdownmlb. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockdownmlb to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. So let's talk game 4, a game that was not safe, a game that went poorly. Harrison Bader. Listen, you can go, well, you can't because Scout doesn't exist anymore. Harrison Bader was one of my first quote unquote discoveries. I wrote about him at Florida because he was a complete afterthought, and he came out and had an absolutely fantastic junior year. Always was a great defender, was one of my favorite sleeper prospects. Ended up being a day 2 pick, who I thought went lower than he should have after he had a great year. Got up to the Cardinals and as a, glove first all the way, but a solid defensive center fielder. And in the postseason, he's turned into Babe Ruth. Another home run tonight. I saw right before his flyout, he was 5 for 6 against Quantrell lifetime. It's ridiculous. I mean, what's this guy? He's turned into Aaron Judge, essentially. It's like they switched.
He's giving them what Judge was supposed to give them. Yeah, unbelievable. I think all the fastballs have been the problem. He's taken advantage of so many fastballs. I don't understand how they didn't adjust to that sooner, but thankfully that was only one tonight. And who knows what would have happened? The home run didn't cost them. They lost by 2, so just got to keep him in the ballpark in Game 5. That can't happen again. That has to be the last home run you give up to Harrison Bader, who had 5 all season, who barely played.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. His only 4-seamers are the only thing he has hit well against this year. But last year he had a negative 14 run value. This year it was a +3. So I don't even know what to make of it. And this year, as you said, he didn't play that much because of health. Like I said, he's a defensive first guy. This would be like if Miles Straw had hit 3 home runs to give an equivalent on the other side.
Could you imagine? That would be wild.
I can. It would be nice to imagine it. So listen, Quantrell was Quantrell. This was another average-ish start, and he finally loses at home. And I know
all the people that thought that made a big deal, that losing at home was like some sort of thing. Sorry.
And for everyone who talks about, his performance, this and that, it's like, listen, he is probably still the worst starter who has thrown in the postseason. And that's not, again, he's a solid mid-rotation guy, but most teams have not thrown mid-rotation arms. He's got an ERA over 5 for a reason. He was able to play well in the regular season. Yes, he faced tough teams and did well, but everything elevates, and he's, an average arm. And an average arm ends up kind of performing like this. And, it's 2 games where he's struggled to go, deep into games. He's given up 3 or more runs. Last game was much better. But yeah, you can look at the other side of things where Quantrell wasn't that much better than him this year. Yes, not Quantrell, Cole. Cole's WAR was, I don't know, probably about a win better, but for the cost of those players, you'd expect more. And it's the strikeouts, but it's also the home runs. And Cole is so home run prone and Cleveland just couldn't get to him. They couldn't, outside of Naylor, and then the whole big to-do about him, which was just like Nash Walker of Locked On Twins literally tweeted out, like, he's done it all year. It's not like he's disrespecting Gerrit Cole, because everyone's favorite little brother decided to make a big stink about it, even though earlier in the year he tweeted off an opposite thing about it. So it was just, that was ridiculousness. Good for Naylor, though. That was one of the highlights of the game for me overall. But yeah, I mean, they were just overly, they were just really aggressive. Again, Holmes needed 17 pitches for his inning. Peralta needed 7 to close out this game.
That was the killer.
Yeah, you gotta be a little more selective. And they were just, you look at it, at the end of the day, they had, Cleveland had 6 hits. Cleveland actually had more base runners in this game, but they were able to string some things together, and they had the home run, and that was enough. That was enough in this game. But I kind of, if I'm being perfectly honest, I thought they could win. I thought they might lose game 2. They won it. When they won game 3, I kind of felt like this was this is the game that they could potentially give away. Like I was not 100% certain how I felt about the likelihood of them winning game 4. So this was a game where I was like, okay, even if they lose game 4, I'm pretty even keel, because I think game 5 is a much better matchup for them. We'll get to that in segment 3. But this was a game that, as I'm sitting there watching it, I'm not like annoyed. I mean, I have points that I'm annoyed, but I thought overall, I guess here's a question to you. Some people kind of viewed it this way. I don't know if I view it this way, that when they're already down 3-2, that going to Morgan and Morris and Plesac was a sign of Tito, like, okay, we're saving everyone for game 5. I'm kind of throwing this one in. I don't think they're going to come back. I don't think it was that. I think he went to fresh arms, and Morris was fantastic for his 2 innings, and Morgan was great yesterday. What's your view?
I mean, first of all, why are those guys on your roster if you don't trust them? This is the thing about postseason baseball and good teams in general. Don't put players on your roster if you don't trust them. This is the issue with like Bo Naylor being out there and other stuff like that. Don't put them on the roster if you're not going to play them. Like, they haven't really used their bench a ton. Were they kind of edging their bets that those guys would be okay and they would keep it close and give the offense a chance to come back? Yeah, you're kind of hedging your bets there. Especially when I thought when he went to Morris for the second inning, Morris had to face Torres, Judge, and Rizzo. And I thought, well, this is a gutsy call to have him go out for a second inning. And he was great. And you want to know what? Now that Cody Morris has his feet wet against a good lineup, maybe you just found yourself another weapon in this bullpen. Maybe, that was the best outing I think he's had. He was out there throwing strikes, 17 of 22 for strikes.
He had more swinging strikes in those 2 innings than Quantrill had in 5.
Right. I have been on the Cody Morris train since I saw him in Lake County in 2019. You were probably on him sooner with at South Carolina, but I liked him in 2019, so I think it was great. Plesac looked good for his inning. You're hedging your bets. I said they're kind of threading the needle a little bit, which I know everybody hates, but they threaded the needle. Morgan could have got away getting out of the inning without a run had that call at first base gone their way. It is what it is. But ultimately, they ended up losing by 2. If they had lost by 1, that would have hurt. But it worked out. So
gamble, man. The overplays, the whole overturning system. Cleveland losing both of theirs, and New York going where they 1 for 2. It's like, for whatever reason, I don't know who is Cleveland's coordinator for this, but it feels like they lose. Feels like they lose a lot of these challenges. Am I wrong?
I feel like they're usually pretty good. I'm sure I can find that percentage somewhere, but I feel like they're pretty good most of the time. Cleveland is. I didn't really love the first challenge. I'm trying to remember what the first challenge was.
Jose Ramirez in between when he got caught in between the bases.
Yeah, I didn't love that challenge. I thought he was out, and but the call with it's Arias's foot staying on the base, like that was close enough where I liked it. I think the first challenge was probably not great. The second challenge, I thought was going to go their way. They just they lacked a little bit of extra evidence to overturn that, which is what you need. Mm-hmm. So not a big deal. I don't have a whole lot of qualms about this game. I feel pretty good about how they played. They ran Gerrit Cole. Look, I knew Gerrit Cole was going to throw 110. I texted like everybody I knew tonight. I said Gerrit Cole's going 110. I think you can see that Aaron Boone's a little bit scared of his bullpen. He wanted to go to Clay Holmes right after Gerrit Cole. He pushed him to his limit, and give Gerrit Cole credit. He pitched like an ace tonight. He gave them a great 7 innings. Cleveland, I thought, had great at bats against them for the most part. They, were there some at bats that weren't great? Yeah, but overall, they did a great job against him. They took his best shot. They gave him their best shot, and he went out and he was just good enough. I mean, he gave 2 runs. They were in the game. Tip your cap, and you gave him a good shot. You move on to game 5. I have no qualms about any of that.
I think my biggest qualms were some of the strike zone things. Like, I'm not normally one who complains about umpires. That's typically something like but man, like, they were just giving, like, there was what you texted me an image of. Was that when I can't remember who it was up to the plate? Was it Rosario? Maybe where like it was. They expanded the zone a little bit much for Cole, and that was probably my biggest annoyance in this game. Or even something like Will Brennan, when they didn't give him a timeout when he asked, where it felt like the Yankees hitters are taking timeouts every 4th pitch. Like, it's stuff like that where I'm like, this umpire crew has been pretty awful all in all throughout this series. And I just want to take a moment and point that out, because there wasn't, like I said, I thought the team did relatively well. There were some moments where you'd like to see them maybe take a few more pitches, work some at bats. But yeah, it was not, I mean, outside of what Miles Straw's one extended at bat, I can't think of anyone else who had a really long one. But yeah, that was kind of my takeaway.
I mean, Gabriel Arias worked some deep counts. Austin Hedges worked another walk today. Yes. Andres Jimenez, who has had a hard time with heat this year, he has not hit fastballs well. He finally had some good at bats, and I think he doubled off Gerrit Cole finally. Oscar had a couple deep at bats. Josh took him deep. Really, if you want to look at it, I think Jose Ramirez probably had the worst at bats of anybody tonight. He swung in a lot of stuff in the dirt. He did have that RBI single, but it wasn't like it was scorched by any means. But maybe it was. I'm going to go back and look at that before I actually give a final opinion on that. But still, I mean, if you really want to say, Jose Ramirez might have had the worst at bats of anybody tonight, which is bizarre.
That that one where he hit or swung at a ball that was looking like it was going to hit him in the ankle, was that maybe his last or second to last? That was the one where I was like, yikes, because it was right after Rosario. That's right, because I was like, yeah, well, that was terrible. And then Jose, I don't even know what he was swinging at in that situation, but
They struck out 8 times tonight, and 5 of them came from Rosario and Ramirez. That's tough. Like Gabriel Arias, Oscar, and Arias struck out twice, but I mean, that is what it is. And Brennan struck out, but yeah, 5 of your 8 came from your 2 and 3 hitters. That's hard, especially when it's your MVP. So gotta get better at bats from Jose Ramirez in Game 5.
That is for sure. We're gonna take a quick break here. Come back in not talk about Game 3, but talk about our third game, which is the Game 5, the decider. How are we feeling? What are we thinking? We're both having some positive feels, so make sure you tune in to see why. Okay, so why are we feeling so good about this one, Justin?
Well, first of all, I think it hinges on Aaron Civale. He has not pitched in a while, but he's been good down the stretch for them. His last start, I know, was against the Royals. I think he had 5 innings, 9 strikeouts. He's been good in the second half since he came back from injury. But I think Cleveland's bullpen is just set up better. Look, they've just got 2 days off from Stephan, Clase, Karinchak. They got another day off for Henches. They got a day off for De Los Santos. Everybody that you mostly trust in that bullpen. Like, the only guys that probably can't pitch tomorrow are Cody Morris and
Eli Morgan, probably, because it's 2 games in a row.
Yeah, so that's the only guys. I mean, even then, I don't know. But, yeah, those are the only guys that aren't available, and you're not pitching them in a deciding game probably. So if Aaron Civale is on, then great. He looks like the guy he did at the end of the season. If he's not, there's no excuse not to have a quick hook and unleash the bullpen and leverage that. And on the other hand, for the Yankees, Jameson Taillon is their starter. He did not look good against Cleveland. And I know they had some bloopers that made things work for them. Yeah, I'm looking at Ramirez pop out again.
They're a bad matchup for him. They're just plain and simply a bad matchup for what he is. if you go and you look at his Savant page, like his best skill in terms of like rankings is walk percentage. This team doesn't walk a lot. So yeah, he's not gonna, there may be no walks tomorrow, but he doesn't strike out a lot. Again, the team doesn't strike out, but he doesn't barrel. Expected batting average against him is 19th percentile. So you're talking one of the bottom 20th pitchers in all of baseball in terms of expected batting average. That's what this team does well. You know, they get on base. They don't, you know, the expected whiff percentage, 26th percentile. This team, they're going to make a ton of contact tomorrow, an absolute ton of contact against him. He's just, you know, and then the low average velocity for a righty is not what you want going. He is, like I said, he is a really bad matchup. Or if you're Guardians fan, he is an excellent matchup. Like his curve, I mean, he has his run value on his pitches has not been, the curveball is about the worst one he has. So he'll be throwing that to Jose at a decent amount because a lot of people seem to throw Jose curveballs this year. His four seamer was closer to average. His slider was average. It's not a good mix. He is not an ideal matchup if you are a Yankees fan.
And on top of that, this is why we feel good about tomorrow. As of right now, and I don't know, I expect Boone might waffle on this because he's had some strange comments all postseason. But as of right now, after game 3, when he didn't use Clay Holmes, everybody was asking him why not. And his response was, well, the idea with him on the postseason roster, he had shoulder soreness at the end of the year. It was because it was a strained shoulder, which is bad, that he would not pitch back-to-back days. So if that holds true, if the Yankees cannot use Clay Holmes back-to-back days, he will not be able to pitch game 5. We'll see if that changes. But Clay Holmes is very clearly the best reliever in that bullpen when he's healthy. Wandy Peralta has been good for them too, I will say. He's been a very good reliever. I know the Guardians got some runs off him in game 3 in the win, but overall he's been, you know, pretty good. And obviously they're not good against lefties, but the Yankees bullpen of Lou Trevino and Jonathan Loaizaga and I guess Nestor Cortez will be available. They said out of the bullpen. We'll see. That might save them a little bit. But if Jameson Taillon's not good early, they have to pull him and go to the bullpen. That's risky. The Yankees bullpen isn't good. And I would say that I think pushing Gerrit Cole to 110 pitches in game 4 was the right decision by Aaron Boone. I would have done the same thing. Not that, you know, I know everything, but that to me says he's very clearly scared of their bullpen. And I think that there's a reason why. So if Taillon's not good tomorrow and they go to the bullpen, that's a big issue for them.
Because let's say like they had pulled him after 5 or 6, it's like Loaizaga probably out there, and then you maybe don't have him for game 5. They need him. They need, you know, Cortez might be available for an inning, maybe 2. If they can get to Taillon, and again, it's a great matchup for the Guardians, then, you know, they're going to be scrambling. And then you got to wonder, even though, you know, Peralta only threw all of 7 pitches today, that's still 3 days in a row. He pitched on.
He's probably down.
I mean, I don't know how you can bring him out after 3 days in a row of pitching. So maybe they trust Licky, or maybe they just don't have a choice. He's the only other lefty, I believe. And, you know, he's a
Cortez.
Yeah, Cortez out of the pen. But yeah, Civale looked like a different animal too in the second half. Like, I think health was a big issue there. And yes, he hasn't pitched in a while, but he was something entirely different in the second half compared to the first half, which, I mean, if we're being honest, was a bit of a struggle for him. And you do wonder about the health because that came to be an issue later in the year, but he looked really strong. You have to feel like it's an advantage.
Yeah, in September, in 16 innings and 3 starts, Civale struck out 14, walked 1, had an ERA of 3.38. That's good. And in August, it was a 3.43 ERA. Is it ace-like stuff? No. Second half overall, post All-Star break, 3.35 ERA and 43 innings, just 7 walks. That's good. Almost 6 home runs in 43 innings. I'll have to watch for that, but yeah, I mean, it's as good a chance as any. I like Civale over Taillon. I will say that.
Yes,
it's not a big difference, but it's
I like the matchup there. I will say the one thing, you know, you talk about there is the home run rates. But at the same time, I'll say that Taillon has always consistently had a home run rate over 1 for his career. So he is also a little bit home run prone. Let's see. He's had the lowest he ever had was a 0.74. You're looking at years where this year was 1.12.
Would you be
that was the
surprised?
MLB average. He was a 1.32 this year.
Okay, so the two teams scored 11 runs combined in game 3 because the Guardians had to come back and win 6-5. Would you be surprised if game 5 was the highest scoring game of the series?
No, not with these two pitchers on the mound. Like I like Civale, I think it's an advantage, but these are both a pair of home run prone arms in Yankee Stadium. So no.
I just think that if the Yankees have to dip into the bullpen early, if the Guardians do their job offensively, if their at-bats against Gerrit Cole are the same kind of at-bats they have against Jameson and Taillon, they're going to be fine. If it hinges on Civale's performance, which I know can be a little bit risky here, but there's no reason that if Aaron Civale struggles, there's no reason that you shouldn't be pulling him early because you should be able to get 30 pitches. Maybe more from Henches, from Stefan, from Clase, from Karinchak, although 30 pitches for Karinchak might be one inning. But
yeah. No, here's the thing. Like at the end of even if he pitches well, he should never go a third time through the order. That should not happen. That shouldn't even be thought about tomorrow. And if he starts hitting some speed bumps, if he's like walking guys, like the sign of trouble, you go to the pen. And I mean, I think even though Morris threw 2 innings today, there's a chance you could consider him tomorrow. I mean, he's a starter who he's not used to the back-to-back, and he had the arm issues, so probably not. But, like, I'm just saying all hands on deck right now. It's like everyone could be out there. And, even if you're not going to throw Morris, like, Plesac didn't look bad tonight. He could be a multi-inning guy tomorrow in a role. He's barely pitched. He's fresh. Mm-hmm. There's ways to go with this. It should be – like I said, I like the pitching matchup with Civale, but I also am a realist enough to know it can also go poorly. And don't just keep pushing. Like, go to that pen quick hook tomorrow is definitely how I feel like this should be played. Yeah,
if needed. So, and neither one of us are saying guaranteed victory tomorrow. It could go a lot of ways, but I don't think there's any reason for doom and gloom after game 4 at all. Not with the way the pitching's set up. And like I said, I think I would say in game 4, like the only loss in this series that you could say is bad is the game 1 loss. I think they didn't have a very good approach in game 1 and things just went kind of south. But I would say in game 4, you gave them a really good shot. The Yankees just came out on top, and that happens sometimes. I thought even Quantrill, like you said, he was average. He was fine. He was better than McKenzie in game 3, technically, if you want to be honest about it. He was better than McKenzie, but no, I think they played great tonight. Gabriel Arias stays in at first base. His at-bats have been fantastic. Jimenez got a big double off Gerrit Cole. We've been waiting all series for Andres Jimenez to get off the snide, and he did.
Well, did he have a double in game 2 as well? Or was that in game 3? He had a double in one other game. That's his second double in the series.
He might have. And he had an RBI single in game 3 or in game 2. So, I mean, he's had some moments, but he had good at-bats tonight, and he had that double. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't think there's any reason for doom and gloom. Even if they lose, they have played well enough this series to show that they are not overmatched by this team. No,
I agree. No matter what, I think they're going to win tomorrow. I believe they're going to win. I think it's a good matchup on a lot of different levels, and they played there's been select hitters for the Yankees who are playing well, but I feel like on a whole, Cleveland has played better than the Yankees in the series. And they've got a chance to continue the underdog stretch because right now the only non-underdogs to win have been Houston in both their matchups and Cleveland in round 1. Every other matchup has been an underdog winning. So Cleveland also has just the postseason on their side. So any final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, the Yankees changed their lineup up a little bit. That's interesting. And I don't know if it made a huge difference. I think with Judge, maybe it did a little bit. He only has 2 hits. I don't know. It's really a coin. I mean, these games are kind of a coin flip, and I know everyone's going to say, it's in Yankee Stadium. That's going to be tough, but they already won one in Yankee Stadium, and I don't think the stadium makes up for your pitching matchup by any mistake. So just get to the bullpen early, win the game. That's pretty simple, I think.
It's like home field that bigger in baseball. Like it doesn't feel like one of those sports where home field tends to be as big of a thing.
Only if you're in a situation like Cleveland where you have a chance to walk it off in the 9th inning, and they still need a lot of runs to do that. I think tie game for sure. I think it makes a difference when you're going to extra innings. It's definitely I think that's the only advantage really.
No, but like I said, I predicted 5 when we did our preview. I'm sticking with that now. So make me look smart, Guardians. Help me out. Plus, will make me happy. Double win. I want to thank you all for listening. Remember, rate and review, download daily. It helps. Subscribe on YouTube. That is the big push. Once we get to 1,000 subscriptions on YouTube, it just helps us out immensely in terms of what we can do. We're up to 764 subscribers as I just pull up the YouTube. So let's keep that push for 800 and then 1,000 after that. I've been Jeff Ellis. Again, Guardians winning tomorrow. Mark it. But thank you for listening. And how I end every show, go Guardians, go.